Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the S2 Underground. So just wanted to offer another quick update to follow on to that first update I gave yesterday on the situation in Kabul. If you have not checked out that first update, I'll go into a lot more detail about the background of the situation, or at least the recent background of the situation, and that would be a good primer for this briefing as well. So just to dive right in to the situation on the ground, the U.S. Embassy has advised people to not come to the airport, particularly American citizens. They are advising for American citizens to avoid the main avenues of approach into the airport itself, avoid coming to the airport, and shelter in place. Now, obviously, if chances are, if you're on the ground, you're not actually going to be watching this video, so that's something to consider, I guess. But if the embassy is urging people to shelter in place and to not come to the airport, well, that obviously means that there are some plans in place to go get people. Finally, maybe, who knows? I guess we'll see. We do know of a lot of secret squirrel stuff going on. It's in the works. But right now, there is a lot of consternation among conventional U.S. military forces at the airport at this time, which I'll talk about here at the end. Also, we've received further information that thousands of Americans are indeed trapped throughout the city. It looks like most Americans that were there they did not get the word that this was going down, and the speed in which the U.S. military pulled out and the Taliban took over caught most people by surprise. So, a lot of humanitarian aid workers and things like that are out in the city. Blue passport holding U.S. American citizens are out in the city, and they are unable to get to the airport due to the extensive Taliban checkpoints pretty much everywhere. Also, the Secretary of Defense has confirmed that Americans have in fact been beaten and physically abused by the Taliban as they try to go through the checkpoints to the airport, which is probably driving a lot of that decision to urge Americans to shelter in place. The military and the political regime in the United States right now knows that this is a fiasco. Everyone in the world knows it, and they know that this is not going to be a quick solution. So, just my guess, my hip pocket assessment is that they're probably going to urge Americans to stay out of harm's way as much as possible, because that just makes them look, more bad. Uh, because Americans getting tortured on TV cameras are never good for press. So that's a huge consideration for moving forward for at least the government. Also, a tent city has been constructed on the north side of the airport, which we'll talk about here in just a minute, providing temporary billeting accommodations somewhere out of the sun in the shade for the thousands of refugees that are now on the airport grounds, and even more that are coming through the ECPs, entry control points, as the days go on. So there's a lot of people there. So they're setting up temporary tents. We're not going to show exactly where those tents are located due to OPSEC reasons, and just in case the Taliban gets froggy and impatient and wants to assert their dominance a little bit more through attacks. But there are lots and lots of people on the airport grounds at this time. Also, our coalition partners have begun to speak out against the shameful actions by the United States political leadership and the United States senior military leadership. Just to be aware, the guys on the ground, the actual dudes on the 5-yard line, so to speak, those guys are doing some outstanding work, and we cannot praise them enough for the conduct with which they have shown over the past few days. But their senior leadership is certainly acting with extreme cowardice and with extreme dishonor, which is why the United Kingdom Parliament has actually held they voted to hold Joe Biden in contempt for his dishonorable conduct during this Afghanistan crisis. So yeah, it's a lot worse than what we're seeing on the international relations front, and that will probably continue to get worse up until the United States government is forced to do something. But right now, relations are not good. In fact, we're hearing a lot of rumors from the actual troops that are there, witnesses, people on the ground that are actually sending us in some reports, and we're seeing it all over social media as well. The disagreements and the arguments and the general hostility between the U.S. leadership on the ground, particularly the 82nd Airborne leadership and the British Special Air Service forces there that are on the ground. Those guys and really all the British forces that are there are conducting raids and rescue missions outside the perimeter of the airport, and they are reportedly very angry with U.S. military leadership, which is refusing to assume really any risk. We have confirmed videos and photographs pretty much everywhere on social media of British British forces talking directly with Taliban members to help facilitate the movement of refugees into the airport perimeter. The British checkpoints are within just a few feet of Taliban checkpoints, so they're making things happen. And they're a little upset the United States is not holding up their end of the bargain. A few other nations have also expressed contempt for the U.S. actions at this time, but really a lot of the heat is coming from the Brits, as one might expect, because they're doing a lot of work, and the United States is again not holding up to our end of the bargain. So that's the really overview of the geopolitical situation on the ground. Let's actually jump into the map, and we'll see what is actually going on the ground in more specific detail. All right, so here we are on the map. This is a map that we created here in-house. Our staff members threw this together with a lot of helpful points that anybody can use if they're wanting to follow the situation. Even if guys on the ground need some KMZs for their handheld GPSs, you guys can use this, because this KMZ will be available for download from our platforms if you guys want it. But as you can see right here, the red side, the south side, the civilian side of HKIA is more or less a contested zone at this time. We have it labeled red here just to show that this is very much a hot zone. There are U.S. forces in there. There are Taliban forces in there. There are lots and lots of refugees and Americans trying to get over to the north side of the base. The north side of the base is the more secure side. I don't want to show exactly where U.S. positions are, just because we haven't seen very many things on social media. If it's on social media, we'll throw it on there, but we haven't seen that stuff pop out, so we don't want to give anything away for OPSEC reasons again. The actual runway itself is highly contested at this time as well. This sort of taxiway / parking apron is currently being used as a turnaround area. A lot of aircraft from the civilian side have been moved over to the north side for loading of passengers, which is good to get them out of there so they don't have to rely on military aircraft as much. All right, so zooming in just a little bit more, here are where most of the people are. You'll see a lot of photographs from a few days ago from the PAX terminals. The main PAX terminal being located here. Of course, there is a Taliban checkpoint here. Really, there are Taliban checkpoints probably every 10 feet everywhere throughout Kabul. So, take it for what it's worth, I guess. This road right here is Terminal Road. Let's see if I can get the actual label to show up. That's not showing up, but this here is Terminal Road. This is currently being held by the Taliban. There are being efforts being undertaken to secure the rest of the airfield perimeter, and that's about as much as I can say on that. But moving further south here to the actual main gate, where most of the videos and social media posts are coming from, this is where the majority of your crowds are located, at least before the Taliban pushed into the area. So there's Taliban consistently along this main drag here, along the road to the west. Like I mentioned, there's still thousands of people up along this road. Mostly this road is clogged with vehicles, so vehicle traffic is really hard to get up and down this road now, because basically anybody who had a vehicle drove to the drove to the airport to try to get on the aircraft, and they just left their vehicles on the road. So this is really a very difficult to traverse terrain, if I want to phrase it like that. Looks like most of the people coming into the airport are coming in through the main gate here to the south, or through the north gate up here. A lot of kinetic activity going on up here at this gate. We've seen a lot of shootings and things like that within just feet of U.S. and coalition forces. So that is a big concern as well. for people trying to get into the airport. There's the Old North Gate. It's got some activity as well, and then there are a few other gates as well. The Abbey Gate is also got some kinetic activity. Pretty much every gate that there's an opening in the wire, or even if it's an old gate, it's got people standing outside of it by the thousands. So moving further south along Airport Road, we're starting to get into the old town here, into the old green zone. As you can see here, I've got the green zone turned on. I'm going to go ahead and click that off just so it's easier to see. Let me go ahead and do that for you. Yep, there we go. So yeah, moving down, we've got Taliban checkpoints all up and down this road. Here is the U.S. Embassy, their compound. Here's the old USAID compound, and then the old ISAF HQ. Everybody who's been there knows soccer field is great. Great HLZ for getting in and out of the ISAF HQ there. And then we have all the collection of embassies here. Most of these circles here that have been traditional spots for Taliban attacks in the past are now being held by Taliban as decently strong points. They've got a lot of armored vehicles and things at these particular intersections, so thought we would mention that. Let's see here. Moving further south, we've got the Presidential Palace Complex. The Citadel is currently in Taliban hands as well. Also, the NDS HQ is being held by the Taliban. Pretty much every government building is being held by the Taliban, but there's the Ministry of Interior. Just wanted to show everyone where everything is at, pretty much. And as we can zoom out, we can actually see. Let me turn off all of this stuff except for the checkpoints. Let me turn that on. There we go. These are all of the checkpoints within Kabul that we know of. Now, this KMZ was found and corrected slightly by our staff here. So things are a little bit inaccurate, but as you can see, there are quite a few that we have been able to find on, or others have been able to find on social media, and we've added quite a few as well to this list. So yeah. Not super great situation on the ground in Kabul right now. Hopefully it will stay stable enough to get people out, and hopefully the United States will start doing the right thing moving forward into the next few days and or weeks. All right, so just wanted to show this slide again for anyone who who didn't see it the first time on our first brief. These are just some resources that you can do. I know that not a whole lot of people are super happy about the situation right now, and a lot of people just really don't care about the situation on the ground right now. But working through all of that aside, we understand that everyone out there, particularly people who watch and consume our content, are going to have a lot of different feelings about the situation on the ground in Afghanistan. But whatever your feelings are about that, that's okay. But we're just trying to update as much as we can and push as hard as we can to get American citizens out. We can debate everybody else, I guess, at the end of the day, but at least I think we can all kind of get together to help get the American citizens out as best we can. Granted, again, there's not much we can do. It's an unfortunate situation, to be sure. We're finding out that the U.S. government is unfortunately incapable of doing the right thing a lot of times. So when something like that happens, those people that have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action. So that's what we're doing. Like I mentioned, the KMZ for what I just showed you will be available for download in the description box below from our Odysee page. And as we keep moving forward through this thing, let's make sure to focus on the good things where we can. Recognize the good stuff that happens when it happens. Good things are so rare nowadays in this really troubled time we live that it's definitely worth highlighting every little good thing you can actually possibly find. So let's remember to do that. Keep our heads on right, and let's keep moving forward the best we can. So with that, always remember to fight in the shade.